All right, we're just leaving the Everglades, actually the Flamingo. We're going to be in the Everglades for another 38 miles. We're leaving the Flamingo campground. Awesome stay here. But now we're heading over to the Gulf side, over to the west to Naples. And we're going to be staying at Collier-Seminole State Park. So looking forward to that. Weather looks great.
So we left the Everglades and headed across the state over to the Bay side. We headed towards Naples, and we booked campground called Collier-Seminole State Park. It's in South Naples. It had 105 campsites, both for tents and RVs. They had electric and water each site, and I believe they were all up to 50 amp, but 30 and 50. And no sewer sites from what I understand, but they did have a dump station nearby over by the dumpsters. They had hot showers, clean bathrooms, except for one of the bathrooms that was right nearby our campsite. It was closed for repairs. It didn't look that old, but we had to walk across over to the other side past the dumpsters to use the other one. And it was fairly cheap. State park, with a lot of the Florida state parks, are $29 per night. And I think they got you like $7 for electric, so it was like 22 base and 7 electric. And pets are okay. There was a lot of dogs there. This campground's not huge, and it seemed like everyone had brought their dog, but as long as you keep them on a leash, you're fine. And yeah, I think they had a fire ring and a picnic table as expected. We were able to partake a little bit and have a couple campfires. They do sell firewood and bags of ice at the front, at the ranger station / I think the camp hosts are the ones that really run it, but I think it was $10 a bundle for the firewood. And we had a really strong Verizon cell phone signal here too. A little bit of mosquitoes, but it was not terrible by any means. It could have been much worse where we were set up, but a little bit. And then they have a paved bike loop you can jump on. A lot of people were riding bikes, which seemed to be pretty popular here. They also had a kayak and canoe launch on the Blackwater River. We didn't go out in the water, but they have, I heard about the mangrove tunnels you can canoe through or kayak through. And they're advertised as possibly being able to see some manatees and alligators. I'll be back to that one here shortly. And then they have some pretty cool stuff. They have a big 1920s walking dredge you can check out, and some other memorials there on site. And they do lock the gate. Some do, some don't, but this place does lock the gate at night, and they give you a code to get in and out of the campground. But as far as our adventure went, we came from the Atlantic side of Florida, as I mentioned, cut through Alligator Alley. So I think it's State Route 41.
We're heading west towards Naples, and we're on this corridor they call Alligator Alley, I think, just past Alligator Alcatraz. And I don't know, there's hundreds and hundreds of gators. There's a channel that runs just beside the road. I thought we were on 41. Looks like we might be on Route 90 now. But just hundreds of alligators in this little channel right next to the road. It's pretty cool. Road's a little fast, like 60 mile per hour to see everything real clear, but there's a bunch of gators.
And you're just above the Everglades, or part of the Everglades. You're not in the national park, but you're cutting through, and they have every road just has a channel dug on each side of it with all the swamp area, so they can excavate and build these roads. And these channels are just lined with alligators. We did stop at a Supercharger. So when we left the Everglades, we decided we were going to check out a newer Supercharger that opened at a casino. It looked fairly new, and they had a really awesome pull-through Supercharger. For those who don't know, sometimes they're just all back in, and if you want to plug in while you're towing a trailer, you either have to block some or get creative with wrapping around the corner or something like that. But this one had a designated trailer spot away from the rest of them. Huge open area. I mean, you could get a much bigger trailer in there than we had. But it was really nice, and no one was using it, fortunately enough, and we were able to pull right in and plug in. It's got the Supercharger. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, Miccosukee Bingo and Gaming Casino. But they actually had this really awesome setup where, for the trailer, you can pull through a priority trailer, and we don't have to unhook, of course, but it's not a back end. It's highly designated just for that, so pretty cool. Makes it really easy. No unhook, I mean. And I don't know if you can see this, but it's like priority for trailers, please use last. A lot of people, especially new to Tesla, don't understand that they should be occupying these types because it's just easy, but Of course, every once in a while there's someone like us who's towing and saves us a few minutes. We don't have to unhook and then rehook, but makes it nice. So big open parking lot. Gen 4 Superchargers look awesome. We went inside the casino there to use the restroom. My son was pumped. He actually talked about a casino, or wanted to go to a casino based on something he saw on TV. He was pumped to see a casino, but he said he thought it was going to be way more over the top. So I'm likely thinking he had some Vegas expectations, so maybe when he's older. But yeah, and part of driving through, I don't think we got this on video because we passed it before we knew it, on Alligator Alley. This is where Alligator Alcatraz is, off of 41. And there was an entrance area, and we saw it, not realizing what it was, and then there was a charter bus, and then they had a handful of people there protesting off of 41, so you'll drive through there if you're coming across to Naples or back to the Everglades. And then we started seeing a lot of panther crossing signs. I don't think we saw those before any other parts of Florida. We saw some other stuff, but as we worked our way west, they started popping up more and more as closer we got to Naples. And then we pull into the state park campground, so it's just on the very south side of Naples, as I mentioned. They have an empty building when you come in. I have seen this at state parks before where they stop using their main entrance building, or they decide to move it up, and it was kind of unique here. So that was either empty or out of commission. And then they had a building, like a shed-like building on a flatbed trailer a little further up, that was being used as the ranger check-in station. I'm not sure if they're remodeling that front building or this is a permanent fix, but it was interesting. And the campground, fortunately enough, did have paved roads. The campsites themselves are on grass. They probably used to be gravel, or there's gravel under there, but they're kind of overgrown on the grass. Pretty interesting spaces, though. They're not consistent. They're not planned out evenly by any means. There's some huge lots, and then some super tiny. They had some gapped out, some on top of each other. Some were, 30 foot deep. Some were like 100 foot deep. The people had to back all the way into them, and they were the same width. So kind of a little bit all over. Every campsite seemed a little bit different. Kind of reminded me of our stay at East Harbor State Park in Catawba Island in Ohio. Their campground, at least the side we stayed on, it was all kind of just jammed on top of each other. It's kind of how this felt. Our site, fortunately enough, we were backed up to the woods or towards the road, so we had no one behind us. So we felt like we had plenty of room. And I mentioned that the bathroom in that shower house was right near our site, which would have been great, but it was closed for repairs. Now the laundry, the washer and dryer that sits outside under the overhang was still operating, but you couldn't get into either men's or women's bathrooms or showers. Eventually they brought in a trailer set up and parked it behind the shower house, and the trailer had showers in it, and I think they had like maybe one bath or one toilet, and they had it hooked up to sewer and power, and it was probably fine, but the park stayed busy the whole time we were there. There was tons of people, so the bathrooms got a little bit overoccupied because they were knocked down to the main one over by the dumpsters, but there's an older one at the front, but it only has like one shower in it, and that was full all the time too. So hopefully they'll get that final shower house up and running or fixed. We did see walking around, they had quite a few warning signs in the campground. Once again, the panthers, the Florida panther, and then the black bears. Now we weren't fortunately, or I should say, or unfortunately, enough to see any Florida panthers or black bears. We were hoping to. Actually, I'll take that back. While we were driving across 41 across Alligator Alley, my wife saw, and she started describing it, and it definitely was a Florida panther laying in a gap opening across from one of the channels. So if you're coming across there, keep your eyes open, or at least the passengers keep their eyes open and peeled for quite a bit of animals you can see, including the gators and that. They did have at the front, so they had a few things on display, probably more than some of the state parks we've been to recently. They had what they call the blockhouse. This is right where you pull into the campground itself. It's a 1940s civilian Conservation Corps replica of a U.S. Army blockhouse from the Seminole Wars that went between 1835 and 1858. So it's a display that you can tour. I think you can go inside of it. It's served, originally they served as small defensive forts, supply posts, and shelters for soldiers fighting in the Everglades and the Big Cypress region. So they built one there on display for you to be able to tour, and they've got some placards and things up with some of the history, which is neat. Like a 2-story log structure with an overhang and upper floor, and they had ladders inside and some different things. I peeked my head in, but I didn't walk through it personally. Then one of the other things I mentioned is a memorial. They have a Baron Collier memorial. Baron Collier was a millionaire who bought over 1 million acres of Florida swamp in the 1920s. And he personally paid to finish the Tamiami Trail. It's the highway that they finally connected Tampa to Miami. And Collier County is literally named after this guy, so this county area. They have a bronze bust that you see it towards the park entrance. I think it's pretty old. It was dedicated back in 1941, and I believe they redid it in 2021. It was cracking under some of the Florida weather, I guess. They talk about it being a double tribute, right? So Baron Collier's vision and the Seminole people who fought 3 wars to stay on this land and the history and reconciliation in one spot. But yeah, so they have that, and they have I'll get to it in a minute, they have a big dredge on site too. So 3 main areas, which I thought was kind of neat. I don't feel like a lot of the state parks, they have maybe 1 or something, but 3 different things you can check out right there nearby the campground. I mentioned they have a marina. So there's a marina, it's walking distance or biking distance from the campground. It's just around the corner, probably half a mile, I would say. And they had a playground there for the kids, but it was a bit dated. Kind of old, it reminded me of my school playgrounds, to be honest with you, with some of the rusty metal tubes, monkey bars and things like that. And they had an entrance there for you to drop in boats and kayaks and canoe launch. The boat ramp is, it's free to use, but you have to pay to get into the park. I think it's like $5 a vehicle to get into the park. It gives direct access to the Blackwater River and 10,000 islands. I guess a lot of people say it's ideal for small boats in the kayaking and canoeing area. And they also do kayak and canoe rentals, and guided trips evidently too. They had them, I didn't see anyone going out on a guided trip, but they had the canoes and the kayaks racked up there beside it. But people go in there to fish evidently too. Snook, redfish, tarpon evidently is pretty popular. And then you're gonna see some wildlife if you're lucky, manatees, alligators, and then obviously they're gonna have all kind of different bird species running around. And so yeah, if you into that thing, bring your kayak or rent one and go check it out. Now we really lucked out. So I can't remember if it was the first night we got there or the next day. Can't recall, but we went down and we really lucked out. There was a gator sitting right there at the boat ramp, pretty large one. And we were able to kind of get some pretty good video and photos of him up close. People were fishing at the docks. Little kids too. I don't think they seem to be too worried about any gators, but to us, this was pretty large and pretty close that, I don't know, I guess you just drop your kayak in and they probably don't mess with you, but he was a good sized gator. And we lucked out because I went back, or we as a family rode back and walked at Lily multiple days, and we never saw another one up close. We saw him further down the channel a little bit, that you might see him crossing over, but this was the closest one we got. So it was nice, and we lucked out. And we rode bikes every day around the park and down by the marina. Lily, of course, she gets her bike ride in because she demands to go sled dogging. It's a good workout for her, actually, because when there's not a dog park that she can run, this is really the only thing we can do to try to get her. I don't know if you know anything about a standard poodle, but it's the most energetic dog breed I've ever had, and she does not get tired from walking. It doesn't work. So you have to figure out a way to run her till she even thinks about getting tired. And so we got to get into that. We'll go for a ride. We're gonna take it nice and easy. No crazy stuff, okay? Oh, not yet. Not yet. I'm getting on the bike. Why they're tired, I think. I don't think we caught a bunch of wildlife or anything on the security cameras, but they did have quite a few frogs. So we saw one was hanging out on our table just outside the camper. When we left, there was another one that was under the tote that we had sitting on the picnic table, probably staying warm overnight. And then I think we saw one or two other ones in the park while we were walking through. They did have shuffleboards for something for the kids to do. Over at the community room at the front of the campground, there's like a screened-in porch area. Not really a lot of recreational activity outside the old playground, and then obviously if you're getting in the river. But just a shuffleboard is all that I saw. Just got to the beach here at Marco Island. We're only about 12 miles away, actually. My wife booked us knowing that, but it's our first. We've been to Naples before, but not Marco Island. Pretty neat little spot. Beach is nice. It's kind of sunsetting in about an hour, but just something else that close to Collier-Seminole State Park. You can still 12 miles come over to the beach, spend the day, or restaurants and everything else. Obviously, they have to offer. So nice little perk. But part of the reason we stayed here, my wife booked this place. Of course, it's beautiful in Naples in November, if you didn't know that, South Florida. But also, we were really close to Marco Island. We hadn't been there before, but we knew it was a nice place and wanted to check it out. So I think we were only like 12 miles from the campground to Marco Island to the beach. And we headed over there to the beach a couple different days. Beautiful, beautiful beach, beautiful island. We were able to check out the sunset on the first night. And there's some boats out there hanging out and running around, but really pretty. It's actually that'd be our first beach, right? The first beach stop on the Gulf side. We've hopped the beaches all the way down the Atlantic, but this was our first stop. We did see that, I think it was that first night, a huge dolphin. It seemed huge based on some of the ones we've seen swim around us before. Some type of dolphin or relative or whatever it might have been. I tried to get a little bit on video if you know anything more about it, but it seemed very large. It was neat to see. There's a gopher tortoise in the road in Marco Island. So there's down here, and not just in Florida, probably up in Georgia too, you're seeing a bunch of turtle crossing signs. And I don't think we've ever caught one in the road, but this guy was, and he stopped traffic. There's a guy jumped out of his truck and grabbed him, picked him up, and moved him off the road. So I think it's a pretty common thing if you live down here. We did have a woodpecker that kept returning to one of the trees near our campsite. He was back, I think, a few different days in a row. We caught him outside. So I mentioned the other thing. They had the memorial with the gentleman that donated the land. Then they had the blockhouse that you can check out. They also have a big cypress swamp and dredge set up. The big cypress swamp is home to the endangered Florida panthers, black bears, manatees, and one of the largest remaining old-growth cypress stands in the U.S. The park's star attraction here at the campground is they have a massive National Register listed Bay City Walking Dredge built in 1924. It was used to carve out the Tamiami Trail, or US 41, which is what we took across from the Everglades, through solid rock and swamp. It's a 165-ton, what they call a walking steam-powered machine. I think it had a nickname of Miss Richardson. But it moved on giant hydraulic legs and used a huge bucket line to dig in a roadbed between 1926 and 28, and it was one of the last surviving examples of its kind. So you can walk right up to it, you can climb on it, and they have like a little bit of a ramp area where they want you to go, but you can get up onto it and really check it out, explore the machinery and see how it worked. But kind of cool, especially because we came across 41, and to think of, there was nothing there before, it's but swamp, and how they had to excavate and engineer that to be, 55, 60 mile per hour road all the way across. Check it out if you can. If you get down south further enough, try to get on 41. There was a lot of motorcycles too. It seemed to be like a scenic ride for everybody. We passed a few RVs, but it's really the only way to cross over because you're just north of the Everglades themselves. We did check out a market. So we were in Naples over Thanksgiving, and our oven isn't quite large enough to do a ham or turkey. So we decided to buy a prepared meal from this really cool store market. It's called Seed to Table. I've never heard of them or been to one. I don't know if it's a chain or this is the only one, but great food. And we went to pick it up, the meal the day before Thanksgiving, as we probably should have. We wanted to be ready, and that's when it was going to be ready to pick up. But this place was a madhouse. There were so many people here, but it was a really cool store. They had a little bit of everything. People were drinking beers and wines. They had open bar, or bar that you could grab drinks while you're shopping, and all different stations and samples, and a lot of fresh and healthy organic foods, things like that. But the place was massive, and the parking lot couldn't have been any fuller. So everybody was there getting some goodies for Thanksgiving, I think. We did find, so we tried to find a dog park if there's one nearby, if the campground or the state park doesn't have one. We found one over Marco Island called Canine Cove. Nice little dog park. It was on the way in. We saw some signs. Oh, that's interesting. We didn't catch these on video, but I saw some signs while we walked through the park to the dog park, because it's in this little municipal area, and they had protected areas for burrowing owls. I didn't know there were burrowing owls. We didn't get to see any, but they had these little holes covered, kind of like a gopher tortoise's hole that might be covered or have some post around it so people don't mess with it. And we saw a couple of them. They had a dog park on the far end of the parking lot around the pond, but it was really nice. Not very busy. I think there was only like 2 or 3 dogs there when we went. They had coconut palm trees in the park, and they had caution tape wrapped around them. I'm guessing the coconuts are falling. That's just how they warn people. Pretty heavy and hard. I don't think I'd want to take one of those to the head, that's for sure. But yeah, Lily had a great time, right? She loves dog parks and playing with other dogs. She's very social. And then before dinner on Thanksgiving Day, we went back to Marco Island, to the beach. Just with us being from up north, it was kind of fun to say we're heading to the beach on Thanksgiving Day. You know, I grew up staying at home in the cold for Thanksgiving and just visiting family. So it was great to do, but it was also interesting, something I didn't realize, I guess, but there's a lot of families who don't stay home. They're out on vacation, because this place was packed. The beach was packed, large families, big groups appear to be all meeting up in Naples for Thanksgiving or over at Marco Island. I mean, better than snow, I guess, right? Swimming at the beach. So when we had great weather, 85 degrees, sunny, and at Thanksgiving, pretty awesome. And then I mentioned earlier, yeah, we did check out the marina back in the campground a few more times, and that's where we saw there was a gator crossing the channel. I tried to zoom in on it, probably didn't come out real clear. I'll put it on here if I can make it work. And when we were coming in on 41, before we arrived originally to the state park, we passed another state park, or I'm going to try to pronounce this correctly, Fakahatchee Strand State Park Preserve. It was only about 10 miles east of where we were staying at, Collier-Seminole. Fakahatchee Strand is actually the largest state park in Florida, and it's nicknamed the Amazon of North America because it has the world's largest tract of virgin bald cypress forest and largest strand of native royal palms on the continent. It's home to 44 native orchid species, including the super rare ghost orchid that inspired the book, the movie, The Orchid Thief adaptation. This is real Florida panther and black bear country. There's signs and they have sculptures and different things. One of the few places left where you can still see these endangered animals in the wild. We didn't have any luck, unfortunately, but I mean, I can see why they would be living here in this state park. The park's evidently famous. They do some guided swamp walks, and they let you wade waist deep through the swamp with a ranger to see ghost orchids and giant air plants up close. Evidently, we weren't prepared this far in advance, because they say it sells out months and months in advance if you're trying to take a look at the swamp walk. But most visitors like us check out the beautiful, it's about a 1 mile boardwalk, and kind of walks you through right there from the parking lot. But evidently the park itself is 85,000 acres, so we just saw the one side of it, of course. We did the Cypress Bend Boardwalk. We were hoping to see a lot of wildlife. We're hoping to see some gators. I kind of thought we would, because that's kind of Alligator Alley right there on 41 when we got over there, but unfortunately we saw no gators. We did see some fish in the water, so I guess that's better than nothing. But we struck out on the gators, unfortunately. But overall, I mean, Collier-Seminole State Park was nice, a little small. Our site was very private, but we backed up to that a main road that was pretty noisy, especially in the mornings with some of the loud trucks. The campground is very busy. People coming and going every day. Every site seemed to be pretty much full. A lot of group camping too, it appears, and maybe that was part of the Thanksgiving thing. But a lot of multiple sites together, it appeared. I would go back though. I mean, it's a great place. You're in South Florida, Naples. You're right next to Marco Island. I think, you know, you don't have sewer, but you have electric and water, and the facilities otherwise were plenty nice, and the price is great. What did I say, $29? You know, it's hard to beat that. But up next, we continue our coastal journey up 41, and we head to Fort Myers. We're going to take a little bit of a break from the state park arena, and we're going to stay at a very inexpensive private resort campground. I'm actually was shocked at how cheap this place is for what all you get. A lot of seasonal and full-timers at this campground, but very nice. All the amenities you could want and need. Very nice and quiet, good location, and working on getting that one out as soon as I can. If you're still with me on this one, I appreciate it, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks.